Well, here on Channel 18, we are continuing our Black History Month celebration by talking to local leaders who have been longtime advocates for minority rights and equality here on Cape Cod. And today we have a man who factors prominently in that discussion as we go forward, Scoba Rhodes. He is the president of the Cape Cod chapter of the NAACP. Scoba, thanks for being with us today.
You're quite welcome.
Now, for folks who don't know you, can you just give us a little bit of your personal history and how you got involved in the advocacy causes that you're presently involved in?
Well, I got involved initially back even when I was in college, back in the 50s. I was part of the demonstrations that were going on in the South. I went to school in Tallahassee, Florida. That got me initially involved. I became more active once I was discharged from the service and joined the Cape Cod branch. I had joined the NAACP as a student back in the 50s. I then had unfortunately let that lapse until I was discharged from the Air Force and started teaching. And then I started getting involved with the NAACP here on the Cape. My dad was one of the originators of the group. And I have been involved with the local branch since the late 60s.
And that wasn't too long after the Cape Cod branch of the NAACP actually formed. 1961 was its first year of existence, and
Correct.
Of course that was a big year for history on Cape Cod in general, with the election of President Kennedy, of course, in that year. And now, in addition to the Kennedy family celebrating that 50th anniversary, the Cape Cod NAACP also celebrating its 50th this year. So I think it's a great time to kind of take a look back on the progress of the organization here on Cape Cod from then up until now.
Well, our duties back early in the foundation of the Cape Cod branch was dealing with many of the issues that were here on the Cape. The reverse freedom riders that were coming onto the Cape. There was a population coming out of the South. People were buying them bus tickets and sending them north saying, that president will take care of you when you get there. Members of our group would meet many of the buses, attempt to find housing, attempt to find jobs, and secure some of these people. Second and third generations are still here on the Cape. But we were very active in dealing with that population on their way up here. Having no idea where they were going, they were simply given one-way tickets.
Obviously, you were fielding folks coming up from the South, as you just mentioned, but what were some of the local issues that were being dealt with at the time, and were they similar to what we were seeing in the South to any extent?
Some of them were similar. There were places where you simply felt uncomfortable because of the treatment that you received in some of the stores, and we took a stand on some of those. There was a restaurant that wanted to open here on the Cape named Sambo's, and we demonstrated against them and won the demonstration. That the restaurant never materialized here on the Cape. The discrimination that you felt in many of the areas on Cape Cod, although most of the people that talked about discrimination definitely was in the South, but it was actually more subtle, but it was here as well. And we worked very diligently to get the towns to put together information that says we won't stand for discrimination. We won't allow that to occur. So therefore, we were pretty active as a group, not looking for any kind of reward for what we were doing other than equal treatment for everyone.
Just trying to do the right thing.
Just trying to do the right thing.
What can you cite as some of the successes, the big successes over the course of 5 decades of the NAACP here?
Changing the attitude of most of the law enforcement on Cape Cod, holding sessions with them to don't profile, to treat people as equals in the arrest segment of your role. The fact that they do get hired in most of the businesses on the Cape now, that it's not that someone is going to follow you around in the store to see if you're taking something and sticking it in your pocket, so that the equal treatment has improved. I don't think it's what it could be. I think there's still more to be done. But part of it is when something happens that we think is discriminatory, to sit down with that business and discuss the issue and create change if possible. And I think we've been fairly successful at that.
So you mentioned that there's still more to be done. What's left to be done, and how do you do it?
If I had that answer, I'd write a book, I'd give up completely and lay on the beach in the Caribbean.
Well, then you wouldn't be doing much of anything. You'd be laying on the beach in the Caribbean.
That's right, but I would enjoy it.
I'm sure you would. Now, seriously though, how does the NAACP move forward from here in terms of advocacy efforts? Where are you directing time? Where are you directing money?
We direct our money to the youth and attempting to get them into the educational process for higher education. Our projects pretty much are surrounded around doing something as constructive as possible, keeping our young people in line and helping them along educationally. Our fundraising is primarily to increase the dollars so that we can help just many more students. We are involved with the March of Dimes on the Cape. There's a telethon that goes on here every year. We've been involved with the telephone bank for that every year since its inception. Efforts are being made. If someone feels that they've been discriminated against, we sit down and talk about it. If the executive committee says we need to get involved with that issue, then we take on that as a project. We don't look for a headline in the newspaper because we do it, but we will sit down with the business or whatever it was that they feel discriminated against and see if we can work it out.
How often do efforts like that happen behind the scenes? More often than people would know?
Oh yeah, yeah. It would be, people say the NAACP is worthless. Well, if we got a headline every time we did something, we would probably spend a lot of time in the press. We try not to do that. I would rather sit down in a closed room with somebody where I can yell at them and get away with it. But if I can change their attitude, that's what's important to me. In some instances it says, nope, you need to go to the Mass Commission Against Discrimination, or you need to go to the U.S. Office of Civil Rights, because our trying to negotiate the issue ran up against a stone wall, and therefore we believe you have a legitimate case, but we don't hire lawyers. We try to go in and negotiate, but when that negotiation doesn't work, then yes, you need to take it to a higher level.
And certainly it's noble to work without expectation of notoriety or publicity.
Well, that's not what we're looking for. We're looking to create change that's positive, and that's what's important. It's not, did I get a pat on the back for doing it? No, that's not what I'm looking for.
What is the NAACP doing throughout the course of this year to celebrate the 50th here on Cape Cod?
Well, we have an awards celebration that will come up in May. And part of what we want to attempt to honor this year is going to be some of the old folk that have been involved from the beginning, highlighting people that have done some really interesting things, sometimes never even getting a pat on the back because of it. And that cuts across the color line.
Sure.
Because over half the population that belong to the NAACP are not minority. Therefore, they're doing wonderful things in the minority community, but they're not looking to be patted on the back because of it. Well, we'd like to honor some of those people.
Well, excellent. We'll certainly look forward to that. Congratulations to you and the entire NAACP membership for 50 years here on Cape Cod. And thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
You're quite welcome. Glad to do it.